Hello and welcome back to Wildsunne Art Studio. My name is Robinsunne. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with any friends of yours who might enjoy this video. So we're talking about why on earth do we make journals? And yeah, I don't know. I don't mean to sound ridiculous. Or make anybody else sound ridiculous. It's just sort of taking up this idea of not everybody makes books and not everybody makes art and not everybody writes in journals. And so if you hadn't already been doing this, it might seem a little strange. Like, why do we spend all this time and all this money and all this effort and watch all these videos? And anyway, there's some really good reasons, and I talked about most of them in my first video in this little quick series, but I forgot a couple. So I wanted to, I didn't forget this one, but I just wanted to reinforce the best reason to make art journals is just to play. They're really fun, and yeah, it just feels good to cut out little shapes of paper and glue them to each other and draw pictures on papers and then put it in your photocopier and copy them and make pockets and make little journaling tags and cut out some more paper after that and draw some more stuff after that and make a little envelope and put a thing into it, and it's just play. It's just fun. It's there are those of us in this world who look at people who climb mountains and go skiing, and I think, why would you throw yourself down a snowy hill? But it's really fun if you like to do that sort of thing. I know this guy who used to he would go on a snowboard and he would do these, complete 360-degree flips in the snow while zooming down a mountainside. Yes, in my physical state, in my body, in this lifetime, that would be cray-cray. But for him, it just made all the sense in the world. So in that way, making art journals makes all the sense in the world to me, because drawing stuff and cutting out pretty shapes and gluing them onto paper just sounds like a lot of fun to me. So this is actually 3 signatures in one bunch. And I glued like little things from the top of a spool of thread. And this little froggy Rainforest Alliance was from a chocolate bar. And this is golden tinfoil that I glued onto a piece of paper. And these 3 little things I crocheted a blanket, and I had these yarn wrappers, and they had these little boxes that tell you how to deal with your yarn and what size knitting needles to use or crochet hooks. And yeah, this is just play. It's just fun. And if you're here, it's probably fun for you too. But this video I am making for people who like this kind of work, like maybe you crochet or you sew or you draw, but maybe you don't know about the wild and woolly world of making your own books. So this journal is for you all, and it's for those of us who've done this for a while, but other people come up with cool things. This was from the chocolate bar, and so is this, and so is this. These were more pieces of information from the wrapper on the yarn. There's a flower I drew and a word I traced. This is also from the chocolate wrapper. These chocolate bars are really, really cool, and I can't remember the name of them, but their wrappers are awesome. Actually, the chocolate was pretty good too. This is a paper punch. This is a paper cut on a little folded card in a pocket. It's highly decorated. So the second thing that I forgot to say was that sometimes a great idea or a reason for making these books is because they're just fun to look at. And this is a paper cut on top of the white paper cut, on top of the yellow card, on top of the page. So there's a lot of texture. So lookbook is not a term I coined. I can't remember who said that first. But it's just fun to, these are stickers and they're really shiny and has a different texture than the paper, and it has a different texture than this. Yeah, it's just fun. And it's a lookbook, and it's a book I'm in process. At some point I will bind these pages into a book, and I will write in it as a journal. This cutout was from a magazine. This is fake washi tape that I made by printing some doodling onto the Avery company, Avery, makes full page 8.5 by 11 sticker pages, and it's clear. It's like just clear plastic, and you can print on them. So I took a doodle page and I printed stickers and made my own little kind of tape. This is another paper cut. So it's just fun to look at these and think about shape and color and how they go together, or I don't know, maybe they don't go together. This is a piece of watercolor paper. I must have been making something else, and this was just a little snippet left over. But it's just cute to look at. This is obviously a cut off of some piece of blue paper, cardstock. I was making some blue spirals for some other project at some point, and I ended up having this set of negative shapes. The positive is the thing, the negative is the hole that the thing made before you cut it out, or after you cut it out. I cut some spirals, more watercolor paper. This was some printing with acrylic paint, magazine paper, yarn wrapper, metal foil on. Yeah. So that's the second reason, is to make a lookbook, to just have something lovely to look at. And the third reason is to make a book that's so pretty you could give it as a gift, or even if it's not super pretty, maybe it's just interesting. So I made this book with 2 signatures. You can tell because there are 2 lines here. And then I did some highly decorative stuff, and I'll talk to you about that. And I went around my studio and I looked for purple paper and purple and white cards and little decorations that I had made. I made some purple paper cuts, and I made purple pockets to put cards into, and I just kept going and going. It was very fun. I sort of edged over into the world of blue a little bit here too. More paper cuts. So this would make a great gift, and I haven't written in this, and I haven't really put sort of philosophy stuff in here too much, so this could be a gift for another person without throwing my personality into it more than just artistically. These are copies of paper cuts that I made. I lined them all up on my copier, and I shrunk them. So now they make these little sort of coins to go on the ties of how I made sewed the signatures into the cover. So yes, we can go there. We can make gifts for our friends. And at this time of year when I'm making this video, we're nudging up on the December holidays, and in a couple of places in this book I made little very thin pamphlet book. This one has staples in it, and some I sewed, and they fit in pockets with paper cuts. Yep. How do I feel loved? Self-love included. You know, one of the ways that I feel best, that I feel like I fit into this world and the world makes sense to me, is when I'm in my studio cutting out little pieces of paper and gluing them to other little pieces of paper that I've also cut. So let me show you how to do that. Okay. We are going to make a 2-signature book. Do you remember last time we made wait a minute, I'll use this one. We made a 1-signature book, and we just used plain paper. 1, 2, 3 sheets. We folded them all in half, and then we just sewed them together down the spine, and the spine is just a fold. So this is not a thick book at all. It's very thin, and it's half the size of a piece of paper. Now you could make this smaller or bigger depending on the size of paper you have. I used 8.5 by 11 American Imperial paper. So you can use this with A4. You could have a bunch of, you can use any size of paper. This book could be this big, it could be this big, whatever you like, whatever you've got going for you. So in this video number 2, we're going to make a book that has a little bit of a thicker spine. And in order to do that with 8.5 by 11 cardstock, is I took this kind of maroon red piece of paper and I cut it right down the middle. And then I took this bright red piece of paper and I made a special spine thing. There's a overage here. This is about 1.5 inches. And there's the spine, which is about 3/8 of an inch. And then another 1.5 inches to glue the back cover in. So there's half a piece of cardstock and the other half. And then I glued it like that. And I added these little squares on the edge just to make those corners, all these corners, be a little stronger. That's kind of where we wear out our books first. So, and then this time I copied out a whole bunch of papers that I have drawn and printed, and I actually did this on the computer. This is kind of a journaling prompt to write about laughter, and this is another prompt to write about courage. This is the other part of the dove with the ribbon. Paper cuts. Sometimes you can just draw the edge with a wiggly line. 3 wiggly lines. I drew all these polka dots. Hope you can see that. I drew some spirals. I drew some stars. Drew some little roses. Drew some big roses. There's that spiral and star paper again. Peace and gentle. So maybe those could be a prompt for the writing a person did on these pages, or maybe they're just words that are nice to have in a journal. More stars, more lined. So you can do highly measured lines for journaling, or you could do kind of spotty lines. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is make this cover. So the way that happens, let me do this with these yellows. I'm going to turn this into the spine paper and use this as the cover paper. You can certainly use the same color. I just thought it might be an easier lesson if I have everything kind of color coded. And then we just cut this in half. While I'm engaging my right brain to cut a straight line. My left brain, it has all the language in it, had to be quiet for a minute. So now I need to measure out and mark where I want this spine piece to be. And because when I made this book, see how it's sort of, I've put so much stuff on the inside on the pages that it kind of puffs open here. So I could have made this spine a little wider to accommodate the fact that I love to put lots of stuff in my journals. So I think I'm going to go wider than 3/8. I'm going to go all the way up to 1/2 inch. And one of the easiest ways to make these marks is to have a scoreboard. You get a little tool that goes into these little grooves that are all carefully measured out up here. You can do this by marking out where you want your scores to be, and then, you know, use just make little marks. And then you can take the blade of your scissor and very, very lightly just make a little mark down it. Let me see if I can do that here. So you can tell by the sound that I was actually affecting the paper here. But when you fold, the paper kind of automatically knows that it would like to fold where the score is. And then you can bone folder it with a bone folder. You can also, again, use your scissors if you have plastic handles on your scissors. And you get a lovely, straight, clear edge. So you don't have to have a scoreboard, but I finally decided to get one, and it's very fun. So I'm going to make a 2-inch. I'm going to make these, on this book, it's 1.5 inches. I'm going to make this part and this part each be 2 inches. And then this spine, I'm going to pull up to 1/2 inch. So first we'll mark the 2-inch part for the back. And then we'll mark out 1/2 inch for the spine. And then we'll mark out another 2 inches for the front cover. And because this spine is going to be carrying the weight of these 2 signatures, plus all the stuff I put on papers, on the pages, I'm also going to mark out an extra 3/8 of an inch, a little bit smaller than this, to glue on the inside to just make sure the spine is nice and strong. Okay. So I'm going to go all the way over here and cut straight up that little extra piece. And then an extra piece will go on the inside, and then this will go on the outside. So I'm just folding where I made those scores. And there we have the spine and a place to glue on the front cover underneath. So it'll be kind of pretty. There'll be this extra little color bit there. And then I'll glue this little thing down the middle of the spine, and that'll be my back cover. So just for the sake of time, we'll use this cover and the papers that I drew and put together for this book. And so the next piece we need to figure out is putting holes in the spines of these signatures so that we can sew everything all together. And the sewing is in the first video, and I'm a little bit running out of time. So if you want to go over the sewing again, go back to the first video, which actually I'll link it below for you just to make sure. So this is a template. I took my ruler. The template is the exact same height as the papers. And I took my ruler, and it's 8.5-inch paper. And I made a mark 2 inches away from the edge and 2 inches away from the top edge, and then right in the middle at 4 1/4. So now I know where I want to, you can put these together. If you want, you can paper clip just so nothing moves. This is my piece of foam board that I use for when I'm making holes so I don't wreck my table. But you can use like a magazine, an old magazine, or an old telephone book if you've got one, or all kinds of things. So now I've got 3 holes in this signature, and I know right where to go. And I've got 3 holes that I actually already did in this signature. And then I have to mark out where the holes are going to be in the cover. And I took my template, and again, the cover is the same size as the paper, so it fits perfectly. So I used my awl, and I looked at the measurements here, and I made 2 little dots in each place for each signature. So the first signature goes here, and the second signature goes there. And I sew my signatures in separately. A lot of people do. There are ways to use one piece of thread to get everything all sewn, but it's so much easier if you sew them separately. So you'd go into the papers with This is a ridiculous needle, but you get the idea. So you'd go into your papers and then into the hole that you would poke into the cover, come out, come back in to the middle hole, which is this one because we're sewing the top signature, and then come out and go through this and sew out here and out on the cover, and then come right back up and sew back into that same middle hole, and then tie right here. So I think I can't remember if I told you that I put little bits of extra paper sort of to look cute, but also to reinforce right there. Now the only difference between this book and this book is that I cut a pattern. It's right here. I've got a lot of things taped to this because I wanted to keep all the pattern pieces together. Oh, stop tearing. So I cut a pattern here, so I knew where to cut. And these extra little pieces, I was kind of testing out which shapes I wanted to glue on right there. And that was the shape that won. And for the corners, I cut this kind of triangular piece, this piece, just by folding a piece of paper in half in a triangle and then making shapes. So these come out as these little spear hinges. You know, a spear hinge is an actual thing. So anyway, have at it. Have fun. Practice like mad. Go out and get fancy papers or not. Play to your heart's content. Play with art until, this is my blessing, may we play with art until our heart feels peaceful. And I blow my blessing wishes across the world. And I will see you next time in the next video. Bye.